Welcome back for our evening broadcast and very cool sundog effect here about 30 minutes ago out to the west. Just some cirrus moving overhead, and other than that, we're pretty clear here. Not all of Texas is stormy. We've just got a little bit of cirrus, and you can see this little patch here over the Austin area, about 150 miles away down to the south. Here's the, we haven't seen this in a while. This is the Polar Orbiter satellite imagery. And this is from earlier today, about noon. And you can see the big upper air system moving in across the Rockies. And the upper level low probably back in this area. The mid-level cloud patterns right around here. And not too much in the way of low clouds. This is a pretty dry system. But down in Mexico, picking up dust there off these lake beds. There's one prominent one there that is south of El Paso, and that was a source of quite a bit of dust that moved eastward this afternoon. I was looking at some historical imagery. I went back to last year. Let me bring this back to 2016 on the same date. Okay, let's see, 2016, March 23rd. Looks like the website is not responding. Oh well, it's going to be finicky. Let's just press on into this evening's weather, and there's our area of thunderstorms coming together from western Kansas down into the Texas Panhandle, just west of Amarillo, west of Lubbock, and down around the Hobbs area. You can see that they're not, they don't really look severe, just kind of a somewhat elevated cluster of showers coming together here. The last of the visible imagery from this evening. Let me bring this back about an hour or two, and you can see that coming together right there. Some pretty good anvils over Kansas, but dry air has been a big problem. We've only seen dew points in the 40s and 50s through this area here. Let me see if I can find digital atmosphere and bring up a surface chart. We'll bring up some 8 p.m. data. We'll get the latest, and you can check out what's going on here. Okay, crunching the METAR and synoptic data, and I think we're good to go here. So here's the latest data from only about 10 minutes ago. And you can see those dew points are on the low side, mostly 40s here in this warm sector, or moist sector here, and just only a couple 50s right around the Amarillo area. And you can see a lot of dust being picked up here off the cotton fields and watermelon and all the other stuff that they grow in that region. And you can also see the cold front has made its way to the eastern New Mexico stations, showing up there at Clovis and Tucumcari. Very gusty winds back there, so I'm going to place the front maybe about like that. Of course, red is probably not the optimal color, but there's the front, and for the dry line, we're looking at something like that all the way up to the Dodge City area. So the cold front is catching up to the dry line, and once it does that, then we're going to see pretty much a wall of forcing working its way across Texas this evening. The problem is, since the moisture is on the weak side, we're not going to get the solid severe squall line like we usually see during the spring months. So it's going to be kind of an elevated line of cluster of showers and thunderstorms, and it looks like even the models have got that falling apart later, but I'll show you that in just a little bit. Okay, before I go too much further, let me switch over to the radar. And I think I closed the radar, so we'll just go to one of the NexRad sites off of the College DuPage imagery site here. And there we go. We got a couple of fairly good looking cells there around the Stratford area. Maybe just east of Stratford there. But keep in mind they are kind of high based. But I'm sure some of these have got a couple of mid-level mesos going. So maybe I'll just go ahead and load up GR level 2 and we'll take a look at some imagery from that. Okay, bring up Amarillo here, get the data flowing, and I'll take a look at the chat here, see who we got. Got David Holcomb checking in, and Mark Davis, and Lexi, and Ahmed, and Ryan. Brian Harp getting ready there on the Oklahoma-Arkansas border for some storms. Ryan asking about storm tops in Kansas and the Panhandle. It's a good question. We can check that out real quick. We'll take a look at these cells that have the warnings. Looking at about 36,000, so not very high topped. And that often is kind of related to the Cape. So Cape on these storms probably in the moderate range. 56,000, somebody's getting 56,000 south of Spearman. Not seeing it on these storms. It might have happened earlier, but let me take one more look. 31,000, 39,000, no, there's nothing there. I'll go a little further south and check out these storms here around Hereford. Tops on those about 28,000 feet. Yeah, these are not all that high top there. Okay. 1.5 inch hail north of 39, 37 in eastern Iowa. Got some activity a little further north. We'll try to take a look at that as we go through the charts. Anyway, let's start looking at some of the upper air data. 500 millibar chart. This is for this morning. And we can see a ridge over the Great Plains. This is associated with a capping. And here's that trough coming out of Arizona. And this kind of shows you the state of the state of things earlier in the day, with a polar front jet coming around the Tucson area, up to Albuquerque, up to the Denver area. And let's check out the thermal structure of the atmosphere. This is at 0Z here, so things have moved on. The system has moved through New Mexico, and we can see the cold front from around Tucumcari down to Guadalupe Pass, Marathon, and then down into Mexico. And then, of course, the warm front extending east into Iowa there. So this is helping to get the storms going in that part of the Great Plains there. Anywhere north of the warm front there, they're going to have winds that are kind of backed, and that helps elongate the bottom part of the hodograph and increase the 0 through 1 kilometer shear there. So things are do have a little potential there for some severe weather there from Iowa to Nebraska there. And we can see that next storm coming in from the west coast. That'll be in the picture around Sunday here. Let's take a look at a couple soundings. We'll try Midland. See if we have any Midland data. Don't have any data from there just yet. We'll try Amarillo. And there we go. We can see moisture is on the dry side. That's going to be a dew point of about 50, but fairly deep. extending all the way up to about 8,000 feet above sea level there. In other words, about 5,000 feet deep. That's some fairly deep marginal moisture there, if you want to call it that. So if we do a parcel lift, it's going to run something like that. A little bit of capping there. So if we're actually going to break that cap, we're probably going to have a parcel way out here like that. So, yeah, that does give us some decent cape. That's probably about 1,500 to 2,000 cape right there. But the LCLs are pretty high there. That's about 10,000 feet there. So definitely high base storms, and with that, that's going to mean outflowish storms. That's going to be a big problem with these storms here. Plenty of shear, though. Got 120 knots up there at about 34,000 feet. But we do see that the backing of the winds in the lower 1 or 2 kilometers, the potential for that is kind of on the low side because of this deep southerly flow here. So to really pull the helicities up, we need something to really back the low-level flow down along that dry line. So again, this comes down to mesoscale accidents, helping to strengthen shear, helping to strengthen helicities up and down the dry line. And in this kind of situation, I think the opportunities for that are kind of limited. Okay, let's look at the dynamics real quick. There's the 0Z. Let me see here. I think this is the NAM. No, I've got the GFS, but this will work. You can see the polar front jet there coming up from El Paso up to Tucumcari, up to Dodge City. And that's going to be rolling out onto the plains overnight. And then by tomorrow, 0Z. That's going to be affecting the area from San Antonio up to Shreveport and up to Little Rock there. So things will be moving east of the Dallas area and into the southern Mississippi River Valley area overnight. And then looking ahead to Saturday and Sunday, we can see things moving out there into Georgia and Alabama. So possibly some severe weather in this region here. And then shot number 2 coming in from the west here. But that's going to affect mostly Kansas and Oklahoma. And it remains to be seen how much moisture we have behind this first wave. That may really disrupt things quite a bit. That'll move through quickly and into the southeast U.S. And then wave number 3 digging in for Tuesday and Wednesday. After a couple days of a break, that'll affect Texas here. By that time, we may have things kind of recharged. And then here comes shot number 4 for the weekend, the first and the second right there. So a couple good opportunities there for severe weather, and hopefully the effects of that are not too problematic. Okay, let's see here. Let's look at the forecast, and I think for this one I'm going to start with the high-resolution rapid refresh. And this is showing the 1 kilometer reflectivity. And so there's the tail end of the line in Texas. And we can see that the trend of that with the model is to bring the bulk of that up into the Elkhart Liberal area around 10 or 11 p.m. And then the bottom part of the line, south of I-40, kind of fizzles there due to the weak moisture and the loss of surface heating. And then we see the very strong forcing moving eastward tonight, and if we had dew points up in the 60s, we would definitely have a good solid squall line moving across North Texas, but just not enough moisture. The addition of heating during the day tomorrow by 17 to 18Z, that will get things going east of I-35, and then we get to the end of the high-resolution rapid refresh. We'll pick things up here with the NAM. Okay, NAM's got going for a little bit of discreteness on these cells. You can see these breaks in here. And if that actually does happen, that would increase the severe potential on these cells up and down the line. So by evening, we're looking at basically the Texarkana area down to about Huntsville. And then it'll move quickly eastward by midnight all the way into the Monroe, Little Rock area, and then into Mississippi by morning. And I know I am kind of model casting here, but there's been kind of a lot to look at, and I might as well take a look at the Central Plains, because I know there's some of you up in that area. And we've got Iowa and Nebraska there to be concerned with. So let's bring up the NAM for the central U.S. Okay, overnight, here comes the stuff out of Texas, heading northeast into western Kansas. And looks like the model has that kind of dying off towards midnight. So the trend of that is for that to diminish with the loss of surface heating. And I think the lack of moisture is a big problem there. Most of the potential for thunderstorms looks like that's going to be north of the warm front, where we have the addition of lift and isentropic lift there. So that should keep some of the cells going overnight. And then we get the main low pulling out of Colorado. And then by this point, we're looking at wraparound, and we've got the dry slot punching up through Kansas. And that should bring things quickly to an end. Just this trailing area of showers moving across Kansas during the day tomorrow. And then things should improve there. Okay, so I think we should probably just go ahead and segue this into the forecast. We'll move into the GFS panel here. So there's our big storm system. This is starting out tomorrow morning. So by the evening weathercast tomorrow night, when we come on the air, going to be looking at this here. You can see the main low back over Oklahoma. Pretty good dry slot out ahead of that. And the main cold front should be set up something like this. There's the warm front, and then an occlusion, kind of like that right there. So yeah, triple point over the Kansas City area. Certainly some severe weather potential there. But they may be kind of distanced from the better moisture down to the south. Okay, by Saturday, things will roll eastward. Looks like this is mostly just a big occlusion up in the central Mississippi River Valley. And looks like we're seeing a little bit of diminishment of this southern front. I'm having trouble even placing it, but I guess it's looking something like that. The main warm front well up to the north. So the system looks to be falling apart here a little bit. Here comes the next wave coming in from Colorado into Oklahoma. A few thunderstorms there for eastern Oklahoma on Sunday. That'll move quickly eastward, and then some severe potential on Tuesday for the southern U.S. And then wave number 3 comes in, and this is associated more with overrunning, a lot of upslope. You can see that easterly flow coming up through Texas. And we've got a little bit of a warm front developing down to the south. So you see that there. And there's the southern portion of that line way down here in Mexico. So this will be mostly associated, looks like probably with embedded storms. This is around March 30th into the 31st. And then our next system coming out of Texas, there it is right there. This is on the 2nd. So maybe some severe potential here for East Texas later that weekend. Anyway, that's a whole lot of charts, I know. That's one of the problems doing a nationwide forecast thing, and originally I was trying to focus mostly on Texas, but hopefully that wasn't too much to follow. And I guess I'm trying to figure out where to go with this. There's a lot to look at, and I think we just kind of have to stick to this format, going with the GFS and looking at the full range of products there. And we're kind of using that as a way to kind of teach meteorology. So we're looking at the things that the GFS chart shows, and to get into more of a detailed mesoanalysis, like for this kind of severe weather outbreak. That's the reason I'm going to spin up the special weathercasts during the afternoons. And I think with this next front coming in through Texas tomorrow, we may certainly do that. You can see here towards the end of this run here on the WRF from NISL, probably going to be some severe potential in East Texas. So probably what I'll do is I'll try to start the webcast about 3 or 4 o'clock, and we'll take a look at this line firing and see if we can see any severe weather potential up or down that line. And then later on during the evening, we'll do the usual scheduled 8 p.m. webcast. Okay, let me take a look at the comments real quick and see what's going on in chat. Question from David Holcomb about cloud tops we were looking at. Okay, yeah, you can definitely send questions by email. I can answer questions there as long as they're not too lengthy, because email's not really that great of a format. But yeah, you can go ahead and send that along, and to do that, go to weathergraphics.com, and there's a contact page, and you can send your questions there. Okay, that's probably it for the evening webcast, and we'll see you tomorrow. And be alert for that possible 3 or 4 o'clock workshop, and we'll do a little bit of severe weather analysis then. Anyway, have a good evening, y'all, and we'll see you tomorrow.